What's interesting about your carnivore challenge, 100% carnivore challenge, is that, and this is going back to calories, is that you actually, I think you ate 5 times
Hmm.
the amount of calories,
Yep.
but you managed to drop body fat,
Yes.
gain muscle at the
Yes.
same time. So how can you explain that for those that are just hell bent on that calories matter and that we have to count our calories? How does
Okay.
that work?
What people need to understand is that calories, by their very definition, by their operational definition, by the way they are measured, they are scientifically absolutely clearly defined. What are calories? Calories is a measurement of heat. Energy is a construct. Energy is a concept. Energy isn't a thing. Energy is all sorts of different forms of motive force, which causes work to be possible in the universe. And all of those things have loose circular kind of definitions that come back to each other. The very nature of reality itself by quantum theory is questionable at its
Yes.
very first, most basic fundamental underpinnings. Anywho, there is a set of laws called the laws of thermodynamics. And these are the laws that are usually invoked by charlatans and people who don't know better to assert that one form of energy, one energy currency, is equivalent to another. And it's false. Calories are specifically and explicitly a measurement of the release of heat energy when you rapidly burn a food substance inside a closed thermodynamic system called a bomb calorimeter. That's what it is. Is that what your body does with food when you eat it? No, it isn't. Does your body encapsulate heat energy and use that for metabolic process? No, it doesn't. It uses chemical energy in the form of reducing equivalents, which are supplied to oxygen at the mitochondria. And it's that energy which is used to synthesize ATP for metabolic process. And there's actually a loss of heat during that process because it's not particularly efficient. That's actually the calories that are going out because calories are heat and nothing else. It's like saying my New Zealand dollar is the same as your Australian dollar.
Mm.
They're not the same thing. They
Mm-hmm.
are roughly equivalent in value. I think the Australian dollar is slightly more than the New Zealand dollar in terms of its value per face value. They're
Yes.
both forms of money. They're
Yes.
both things that can be transacted for goods and services. However, I cannot take my New Zealand dollar into a deli in Australia and hand them that piece of paper and say, give me some goods, because they won't.
Yes.
It's not the same thing. And I guess that's my argument, is that heat energy is not the energy currency of the human system.
Mm-hmm.
And I've done many, many videos arguing the exactitudes of the science behind this line of argumentation. What it boils down to is anyone who invokes the first law of thermodynamics as a reason to assert that it is appropriate to measure the energy contained in a food substance by the use of the term calories and by its measurement, number one, hasn't read the first law of thermodynamics and doesn't know what it says, and or hasn't understood it remotely
Yes.
at all.
Yes.
For a start, there isn't an absolute assumption on the first law of thermodynamics that the system under consideration is closed.
Yes. The human body is not a closed system.
It is not, it's open. So the
Exactly.
thermodynamics simply does not apply to the function of the human biological process. So
Mm.
anyone that says, oh, the thermodynamics and calories just does not know what they're talking about. And you can dismiss that person as a charlatan and someone who has an axe to grind in some way. It's
I
usually
think
people who want to justify eating the wrong things because all calories are equal. They're all the same, even though they're not.
I think also as an extension of that, I was talking with Dr. Anthony Chafee, And he was saying from the USDA food guidelines in 1977 how they changed it. And the idea of calories as an extension of that, the recommended daily intake and the RDAs and the labels that we see on food, it's coming from the fact that we're eating artificially created food and therefore we need to create these RDAs. But really, if you're eating an actual human appropriate diet, which is a carnivore diet, a meat-based diet, we don't need to calculate calories. We don't need to think about RDAs. We don't need to think about nutrient availabilities in our body, because naturally, if you're eating an appropriate human diet, it just all happens. Even understanding that we don't have to calculate protein or fat, because if you're eating the fat that is naturally occurring in the whole animal, you're naturally getting it.
Yeah.
So that was my understanding, even when I have, so I have a free meetup group each week, and I get this question around calories. How much meat should I be eating? And exactly what you say, which is eat until you feel satisfied. It is very hard to overeat on meat. Try it.
Yeah.
And I know that
it's
you
torturous.
tried it with your 90-day fat loss challenge.
Oh, it was horrible.
You did it for 2 weeks, priming, and then you actually took that challenge, and yeah, it's quite difficult. So what was the purpose of priming for those 2 weeks?
Yeah, so it's a couple of things. It's number one, it makes sure that you have replaced all the nutrient that's probably missing, because most people are running a deficiency in terms of nutrient, because even with quite good diets that aren't perfect, most people are missing certain nutrients and not getting enough of those things. Even at the macro level, not enough protein for a lot of people, for example, not enough iron for a lot of people, specific amino acids, as well as protein at large, for example, getting the balances right on all of that. People that have been avoiding fat will be missing fat-soluble micronutrients, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we've got to make sure everything you need is in your body at the onset of the challenge to go 100% carnivore. And so we do a 2-week period of priming up front to make sure that it's there. There are no overdrafts at the beginning. We're good to go. We have everything on board that we need. That's part of it. Another part of it is it's a psychological thing. It gives you food freedom, because actually by the end of that 2 weeks, it's not true, but you feel like if I never see food again in my life or eat again ever, that'll be too soon, because food becomes a source of torment, I guess, rather than a source of joy. And frankly, I've said it often, if your one source of joy in the world is food, I seriously suggest you have a look at your life.
Well, it's true. If you feel that food is in abundance, so even though you feel that you're overeating, I really don't want to consume anymore, because what you're eating is in abundance. There's no restriction around what you're eating. So your brain doesn't have to think, I need to get more of this because I'm not going to get it another time. And Correct. You're quite right in terms, and it's a very hard thing to coach people and to tell people that if food is a joy of your life, there is so many other joys in life that you can have. And actually food should serve as feeding you nutrients so that you can find joy in other things that you love.
Absolutely.
But
and here's another one you can use if you like.
To tell people this.
It's very hard. And here's another one you can use.
Yeah.
The reason that we eat is so that we might live. It is not the other way around.
It's very true.
Yep. So that's one you can use. You can have that for free.
Well, I'm going to use that. It's easy.